Hey, what's going on, folks? Thanks for tuning into this video. I wanted to make one about Donald Trump because on my old channel, One Concerned American, I had over 4,000 subscribers, and I made probably about 10 hours worth of videos regarding Trump. And usually these would get a lot of hate because I'm generally a pretty conservative person. A lot of my friends and family are conservative. So when people were watching these videos where I was exposing Trump, they somehow assume that I was a raging liberal when the reality is that I'm just not very political at all. And I'm out to expose how we're all getting ripped off. Now, a lot of you think of this image when you think of Trump. You think of him as the only guy fighting the deep state, right? He's standing up for Americans and the forgotten man and things like that. But the truth is, I'm going to show you in this video, he surrounded himself with some very sketchy people as president. And if you think he just was fighting against this cabal the whole time and just couldn't get anything done, even though he's the commander in chief of the largest intelligence apparatus in the history of the world with the biggest budget in the history of the world. Something is wrong here. Okay, so let's get into these people and these figures that he surrounded himself with first. So go ahead and pause it if you want to read this meme. But first of all, Donald Trump has a lot of connections to people that are associated with Jeffrey Epstein. And if you don't know, Jeffrey Epstein had his own private island where politicians, celebrities, scientists, all kinds of prominent figures were brought to this island. They did inappropriate things with minors and were probably recorded, blackmailed, and compromised. And what we call this is a honeypot operation. This is something that intelligence agencies do. And we also saw that when Jeffrey Epstein's madam, her name was Ghislaine Maxwell, when she was caught, Donald Trump actually gave a speech and said that he wished her well. Okay, and this is a woman that brought underage girls to an island to be abused. Okay, so let's get into these people that are mentioned in the meme. Okay, the first one is William Barr. William Barr was Donald Trump's attorney general. If you look into this man, his father actually hired an unqualified Jeffrey Epstein to be a math teacher at his school, Dalton Academy. The next thing is that William Barr is just not a patriot. Okay, he pardoned people who were involved in the Iran-Contra affair. He pardoned people who were involved in the massacre at Ruby Ridge. So how anyone could think Donald Trump is a patriot when he appoints someone like that as his attorney general is just beyond me. Okay. Next, you have Alex Acosta. Alex Acosta was a Florida prosecutor who tried Jeffrey Epstein in 2008, 2009 when he was first caught. And he actually let this man on a light work release sentence. Okay. And when he was asked why, he said that Epstein had intelligence connections that could be FBI, it could be CIA or Mossad, who knows? But the point is, people think that Donald Trump is trying to shut down child trafficking networks when in reality he's giving jobs to people who close investigations into child trafficking networks. Okay. Here's another one you can read about Alex Acosta. So some people say he might have broke the law in the first Jeffrey Epstein case. Okay, that's something you might want to look into there. The next person is Steve Mnuchin. This was Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary. And this man is actually a member of a secret society out of Yale called Skull and Bones. Okay, George W. Bush and his dad were members of this secret society. John Kerry was a member. The founder of the NFL was a member. William Howard Taft was a member. So it's a shady secret society, and Donald Trump gave this man a job. Okay, another interesting thing is that this man actually worked for George Soros, and he was a prominent figure at Goldman Sachs. And if you watch the presidential debates, Donald Trump actually slammed Ted Cruz, trying to say that you couldn't trust him because he took money from Goldman Sachs. Okay, so that's a pretty hypocritical move right there on Trump's part. You also have the fact that George Soros backed Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, financially in a big business startup. And Donald Trump also was given and then forgiven a loan from George Soros. Now, I've seen different figures on the amount of this loan. I've seen 160 million, I've seen 300 million, but the fact that he took any money from George Soros at all should scare you, especially when people blame so many problems in America today on George Soros. They're like, "Oh, George Soros is funding the migrant caravan. George Soros is funding NAMBLA, the North American Man Boy Love Association. So people think that Donald Trump is like enemies with George Soros and he can't do anything to stop George Soros, when in reality, he's taking money from this man. Okay? And it's verified. Look it up. You also have this guy, Wilbur Ross. Okay, this was Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, and this man was the head of Rothschild Incorporated's bankruptcy advising team. Okay, and if you don't know, Donald Trump declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy, I think, 4 times at least. So this guy could be just keeping tabs on Trump for the Rothschilds. You never know, folks. If you don't know about the Rothschilds, please check out the video I uploaded about it a couple weeks ago. That'll tell you everything you need to know about them. You also have the fact that Trump has a lot of mafia connections. Okay. He was actually denied an opportunity to build a casino in Australia because he had these mafia connections. He made Kellyanne Conway one of his first press secretaries, and she was actually related to a mobster. Her grandfather was a mobster named Jimmy the Brute DiNatale. Finally, when it comes to these other connections that Trump has politically and socially, you can see Trump was basically living this hip hop lifestyle for a long time. If you've ever watched the intro to his show, The Apprentice, he comes out to the OJ's theme song with the For the Love of Money, walking through kind of with his swag and all the gold plated stuff. And a lot of these guys that slammed him when he became president were really his friends, like Snoop Dogg, for example. A lot of these guys were roasting Donald Trump on Comedy Central. And then, as soon as he became president, they're making videos where they're pretending to want to kill him and assassinate him. Okay. So, Hollywood is out here condemning Trump when in reality, he's one of them. Okay. He's an actor. He's been in movies. He's had his own TV show. He's a part of that crew. All right. You also have the fact that Trump is related to Hillary Clinton. Now, a lot of people would get mad at me when I'd point this out, and they would swear to me that he's not related to her, even though it's documented and proven. Okay. And you can see that it's not a person of insignificance. I mean, they're related to a Duke of Lancaster. And I mean, this is a pretty distant relation, but again, that should throw up some red flags. Donald Trump was out here saying that he was going to lock Hillary Clinton up. He claimed that she was up to some very shady stuff. He was literally going to rallies where people were chanting, lock her up, lock her up. And he didn't do anything. Okay, the day he became president, they basically stopped investigating her. All right, so something very suspicious about that. Again, the Clintons went to Donald Trump's wedding. Trump donated at least $100,000 to the Clinton Foundation. Clinton Foundation has a lot of sketchy ties. In fact, Ukraine also donates a lot of money to the Clinton Foundation, or people in Ukraine donate a lot of money to the Clinton Foundation. Here you can see him pictured with Epstein multiple times. He's been pictured with Ghislaine Maxwell multiple times, pictured with the Clintons multiple times. I mean, he's friends with all these people that you think he's enemies with. Okay, this is how politics works. On the stage, they pretend like they're enemies, and behind the curtain, they're all friends. They're all working for the same ends. Here you can see him pictured with Clinton, Rudy Giuliani, Mike Bloomberg. Mike Bloomberg was a big candidate in the 2020 election, saying that he's a big liberal. Trump is pretending like he's a big conservative, even though he was a lifelong Democrat. Okay. So again, shady connections, all these guys. I thought it was also very interesting that Trump's family name is actually Drumpf. Okay, you can see it's spelled Drumpf. So they changed their name to Trump when they came to America. And you can see that they're actually from Bavaria, which is interesting because Bavaria is where the Illuminati was founded by Adam Weishaupt in 1776. And it's also where Goldman Sachs is based out of. Okay, so very unusual. And this wouldn't really be anything to be concerned about, but Trump actually lied about this in his autobiography and said that his family was Swedish. So for some reason, he's trying to hide where his family is from. They've changed their name, and they're also connected to some very shady figures through their origin here. Additionally, if you look into Trump's financial connections, it's very clear that someone else is the money behind Trump. Okay, if you look into this, right, he owns corporations that own LLCs that own vehicles like helicopters, planes, things like this. So his money is very spread out. It's very shady. He has people like George Soros giving him millions of dollars. I even watched a town hall. Swear to God, Donald Trump said he did not know who he owed a 300 or 400 million dollar debt to. Like someone asked him the question, he was like, I don't know. I owe a lot of money to a lot of people." I mean, that should be a major red flag. Okay. And just the fact that he doesn't directly own all these things that you think make him super wealthy, again, red flag. Finally, I want to wrap this up by just mentioning how a lot of Trump supporters do not hold Trump to the same standards that they would hold other politicians to. For example, when Bill Clinton got caught up in the whole Monica Lewinsky affair, people judged him, right? They had said things like, if he would lie to his wife and daughter, what would prevent him to lie to the American public? And again, this is an Occupy Democrats meme. I have no respect for the Democrats. I don't know how any educated people for vote for them, but I think this meme is pretty spot on because I literally talked to people who said this exact same thing. I think Trump's marital infidelity, Stormy Daniels, and so forth is a private matter for him and his family to deal with. I talked to people and I asked them, how do you feel about the fact that Trump paid a porn star to have sex with her and then paid his lawyer to pay her off to keep quiet? And people are like, well, what does that have to do with him being president? I mean, it just shows you if he would lie about that, he'd probably lie about just about anything. So again, it's just not holding him to the same standard as other people. Okay. Even though he's talked for a long time about running for president, it's not like he just did it randomly. Okay. Trump said that he could shoot somebody and not lose voters. I mean, he's basically proven that. He's lied about multiple things. He's infringed on the Second Amendment multiple times. He said he was going to lock Hillary Clinton up. The national debt went up by trillions. Basically, nothing really changed under him as president. But people like practically worship this guy and think that he's the only person that can save the country. It's not okay. Here's an interesting one. You can pause this if you want to read the whole thing, but Trump just uses a lot of verbal judo to try and come out here and say that he knows more about all types of things than anybody else. And this is basically like a verbal way of tricking people and kind of hypnotizing people, right? Whenever he doesn't really know what to say, he'll just say, "Oh, I know more about this than anybody else." He says he knows more about ISIS than the military generals do. He knows more about the US government system than anybody. He knows more about renewable energy. Taxes and debt, hey, maybe he does know more about that than anybody because I don't know anybody that's been through as many bankruptcies as he has. Technology, drones, I mean, just goes on and on. He will say this about anything. Okay, it's like one of his strategies when he's giving speeches. Okay, it's just kind of the way he talks. Finally, the last thing is that, Donald Trump used the emergency actions to get money to build a wall. And I don't agree with that. And it's not because I'm against the wall, it's because I'm against the principle of using emergency actions. Okay, go and read the Constitution. You'll see the original Constitution does not mention anything about emergency actions. Okay, so I would be against it if Biden did it, if Trump did it, if Obama did it, if anybody did it. It has nothing to do with him personally. And this is evidence to me that the Democrats and Republicans work together. Okay, because Donald Trump tried to get the money to build the wall. The Democrats fought him on it, even though Obama, Bill Clinton, George Bush, they've all said in the past that we should have a wall. The Democrats fought him on it, so he just declared an emergency and got more money for it than if he would have just done it the legal way. Okay, so these emergency actions, Truman tried to use one during the Korean War. I do not agree with these things. They're unconstitutional. Lots of legal experts agree. So that's my opinion. There's a lot more evidence I could get into. I might make some more videos in the future, but just wanted to put this one out there to get some feelers on how people will react to this content. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. If I'm wrong, prove it. I'll make a correction and I'll retract whatever I said that was incorrect in this video. I appreciate your time. God bless.